I'm the Nevada Stray Cat, and I've come to Metropolis. Not the teeming, sprawling dystopia of Fritz Lang's movie, not the fume-choked city of Depeche Mode's song Stripped. Not even Superman's home. This is Metropolis, Nevada, a failed dream instigated by a Massachusetts land speculator who didn't understand the desert. Whoosh. I wanted to start the journey to Metropolis where it would have started for a family looking to settle there in 1912. But not only is the town of Tulasco gone, the road to where it used to be is barely discernible. And while I'm willing to cautiously go off-road, I'm not willing to go through questionable gates that might lead to me standing in front of an irate rancher's shotgun. Why start with Tulasco? Because in 1912, when regular passenger service began to Metropolis, it was a rail junction. Remember that at that time, the interstate didn't exist. Paved roads, as we know them today, had only been around for a decade or so, and didn't extend this far out from settled areas. But the railroad, the Central Pacific Railroad, ran through just north of this road. And when Massachusetts businessman Harry Pierce bought 40,000 acres of desert with the intention of turning it into a town and farming hub, the way to get people to the town was rails. Rails which branched off the main line at Tulasco. And even though that junction is gone, people still live out here. That, for instance, is the Beverly Hills Ranch, and it isn't quite as remote as it seems. The closest surviving town, Wells, Nevada, is only about a 15 or 20 minute drive down this frontage road, or 5 minutes if you hop up on the freeway. I featured the town of Wells before, and I'll leave a link to that video in the end card. Quick digression. I sometimes joke that it's against Nevada law for a business above a certain size not to also be a casino. But usually, when you see the words "and casino," it just means that there are a few slot machines in there. Usually. There's still an active railroad through here, by the by. These tracks are part of the Union Pacific Railroad's overland route. Sadly, there's no passenger station here anymore. That's a freight-only road. And as I turn onto Metropolis Road, this seems like a good time to mention that my gas for this trip was paid for by a donation from an individual who has chosen to remain anonymous. If you'd like to follow their example, with or without anonymity, you can find the link to my Ko-fi page in my channel description, or in the description for this episode, and I will be deeply grateful to you for doing so. This paved road is maintained by Elko County for the ranches in the area, and you can see the effects of water in the stretch of lush green to my right, the east side of the road. That's probably very early growth of alfalfa, which is a prime livestock feed. And that is where Metropolis failed. No, not the lack of alfalfa. The lack of water for alfalfa or anything else. Pause while we admire these horses, outstanding in their field. Another digression. Yes, I'm off pavement again. I managed to avoid it for 6 months, but this is northern Nevada, and there's a lot more unpaved roads than paved ones, a lot more ghost towns than currently occupied ones. I didn't grow up in this desert. By the time my dad brought the family to Windover, I'd already joined the Navy. But I lived in the similar desert of the Colorado Plateau when I was growing up, and this landscape is very much like the landscape there. It's a whole lot of nothing and nowhere. When I went to Germany as an exchange student my senior year of high school, I encountered a vastly different set of assumptions, an entirely different mindset. As my late wife once summed it up, Europeans think 100 miles is a long distance. Americans think 100 years is a long time. What's that, you ask? It's a cattle chute, left in place by some rancher. It serves to guide large livestock from the ground into a trailer. Whether that's the horses I showed earlier, or the cattle I saw on this route, but which were too far away for the camera to pick them up clearly. The ranches out this way raise stock, and they have to get the animals to market somehow. Back to Metropolis. Pierce and his fellow investors bought 40,000 acres of desert, which works out to 6¼ square miles. And that sounds like a lot, until you realize that the nearest reliable source of water was Bishop Creek, 15 miles away. They paid a contractor from Salt Lake to come out and build a dam on land they didn't own and impound water they hadn't secured the rights to. Another town downstream depended on that water, and that town, Lovelock, sued and won. Pierce & Company had not even considered Lovelock's water rights because Lovelock is more than 200 miles west of Metropolis, and I can't emphasize this enough, Pierce & Company did not understand the desert. At its height, Metropolis was home to some 700 people, mostly recruited through church endorsement in Utah. And I don't want you to think that their only tribulation was the water. For instance, when they started wiping out coyotes in the area, the jackrabbit population exploded. They had a wave of crickets that devoured their crops, and they were too far from the Great Salt Lake for seagulls to save them from those locusts. Quick pause to check my map. And of course, the desert is not dead. This antelope was standing in the middle of the road as I came up on it, though it quickly yielded to my loud, mighty black chocobo. The last store in Metropolis closed 101 years ago, in 1925. the post office in 1942. Today, the only remnants are the ruins of the hotel and those of the school, and the nearby cemetery. Thanks for coming along with me on this ride, and for watching all the way to the end. If you like what I do, please do all the regular YouTube things. Like, comment, subscribe, and share with others you think might enjoy the history and vistas of the Great West. I'm the Nevada Stray Cat, and I'll see you around.